Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today's review is at Kilworth Springs in Leicestershire. Kilworth Springs is a par 72, and off the yellow tees that we were playing today is a little over 6,200 yards. So as normal, we will be reviewing the course over 5 parameters, so general feel and facilities, course difficulty, course condition, course layout, and then finally the value, and then we'll get into each of the 18 holes and provide a little bit of a strategy around each of those holes. So on to the general feel and facilities. I've given this a score of 5 out of 5. I really enjoy the facilities here. A nice bar, a good pro shop, very good practice and warm-up facilities. This includes a Trackman driving range as well. It's a very well presented course, and you get that as soon as you walk through, and this does continue throughout the course as well. For the course difficulty, I've given this a 4 out of 5. This course is actually pretty difficult, even from the rough, and you'll see in the video a bit later on just how much time I spent in there. This was a really tough challenge, and even if you are playing from the fairway, this is still a good challenge overall for pretty much all level of golfers. The front nine does play a little bit easier than the back nine, especially when you get to the sort of hillier parts of the course. You'll also notice a little bit more water around that back nine as well. Onto the course condition, I have given this a 4 out of 5 as well. I'm not too sure if this was a deliberate thing, but the length of the rough was really long. The fairways were really well cut though, and it didn't feel overplayed at all. My friend who's a member there actually says that this course plays pretty well all the way through the year, and is rarely closed and drains pretty well as it is at the top of the hill. The tee boxes were really good, and the greens were super consistent and really well managed, which is always good to see. Onto the layout, again I've given this a 4 out of 5. A really good layout, a wide variety of sort of different feeling holes. This is a course that you will need to plot your way around. It's not a course that you're going to deliberately be able to overpower. There's a good balance of sort of interest, especially like say that back nine where you get the sort of water and the hills around the course. Probably lacking a bit of a feature hole. There is some quirky holes that you do have to navigate your way around, but generally speaking, really good layout and nice sort of feel to each of the holes. And finally, onto the value. I've given this a 5 out of 5. As I mentioned, I was playing alongside a member, and members' green fees were £25. For normal visitors though, this is about £35 for a round in peak summer at a weekend. I would still pay more than this, and like I say, for £35 for the condition of the course and the fact that the course is actually really nice, I'd happily pay this. So this will give Kilworth Springs a score of 22 out of a possible 25. A really great course to go and play if you are in the area, especially for the price of it. Would certainly recommend this pretty much at any time of the year. So if you have made it this far, please like and comment onto the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for more golf reviews around the West Midlands and around the UK. So as I mentioned earlier, we will get into each of the 18 holes and provide a little bit of a strategy around each of the holes. Hole 1, and a reasonable length par 4 to open up with. Off the tee, this is actually quite an appealing fairway to try and hit, and you will be advantaged the further down the fairway you are. The hole does turn a little bit to the right after the fairway bunker, and you will ideally like to leave this just short of that fairway bunker, which comes at about 220 to 230 yards off the tee. This will only leave you about 130 yards into the green. The fairway does bear a little bit round to the left side of this bunker, and there is quite a bit of space down the right hand side if you do leave one out there. Also, you will need to factor in that it is out of bounds all the way down the left hand side. For your approach shot to the green, I would recommend just playing to the middle of the green and playing to the yardage to the middle as well. This green is protected by banks, especially around that short right hand side of the green. When you're on the putting surface, this green is pretty flat, but does have a bit of a spine running across the middle of the green. So you won't notice too much movement, and the back portion of the green does slope a little bit down towards the back of the green if anything. Hole 2, and a short par 3 that plays slightly downhill from the tee box. Again, aiming for the middle of the green and playing the yardage to the middle, almost irrespective of where this pin is. There are 3 bunkers short of this green, so 1 down the left hand side and 2 down the right, and you will want to try and avoid these at all costs. Missing long is probably better than actually missing short, just because trying to get up and down over those bunkers is going to be a really tough option. This is quite a spacious green and is also pretty flat. There is a slight false front to it, but nothing to really shout about, so you won't find too much movement around most angles around this green. Hole 3, and a good length par 5 here, and apparently the easiest hole on the course. There's two ways to play this hole, but the second will require a very accurate and long tee shot. The safe option will be to leave yourself short of the 6 fairway bunkers that are separating the 2 fairways. This is going to be somewhere short of about 200 yards off the tee. For the longer hitters, you could probably take on all of these bunkers, but this is going to need to be over 260 yards to actually quite a narrow fairway. For the second shot, ideally you're just going to want to position yourself up to sort of your comfortable yardage, so I'd recommend somewhere around 100 to 110 yards to the green. If you do decide to leave yourself at that 100 yard mark into the green, this is going to separate the fairway bunkers that are down the left hand side. For your approach to the green though, I would recommend just aiming for the middle of the green and playing the yardage a few yards less of actually what it is to the middle of the green. This is just because the green is slightly below you. You will want to take the bunkers that are sat at the front of the green out of play as well, as these will leave you a really tough up and down for par. Missing long here actually isn't a bad option. The green does slope generally down towards the front left of this green. Pace control is going to be essential, just for minimising putts due to the length of this green. Hole 4, and a long par 4 here, and this will play all of the yardage as it does play slightly uphill as well. I would almost be tempted to play this as a short par 5 for most golfers, as it is stroke index 2, so you will get a shot on this hole. Getting a good shot off the tee though will be really important if you are thinking of going for this green in 2. Ideally off the tee you will want to play somewhere between 220 to 270 yards, as this will leave you at the widest part of the fairway. If you can't hit that sort of yardage, then you are going to have to lay up, and I would just recommend laying up to a favourite yardage just so you can reach the green in 3. For your approach to the green, again I would recommend just aiming for the middle of the green, probably taking the yardage to at least the middle if not to the back of this green. There is quite a bit more room for error at the back of this green, so if you do it a little bit too long it probably isn't going to be the end of the world. This is a narrow green, so accuracy is going to be really important here. The green slopes down towards the front of the green. You probably won't find too much movement unless you are having to put across the green. But again, pace control is going to be really essential here for getting down in par. Hole 5, and another good length par 4 here. Ideally off the tee though, you want to play about 240 yards, as this will just find the widest part of the fairway. If you can't hit that far, then just get yourself down as far as you can. But off the tee, you will be playing a slightly blind shot, and you won't be able to gauge if you are in the fairway or not. But if it looks pretty straight, you're probably going to be fine. For the approach to the green, you will ideally need to avoid the bunker at the left of this green. So aim just a little bit down the right hand side. Playing the yardage to the middle of the green should leave you a good chance of getting down in 2 for this green. The miss is actually down the right of this green, just to avoid that bunker. The green is like an upturned down saucer, and it does become a bit more noticeable the further you are out towards the edges of the green. You will notice some movement around this green, so you are going to have to commit to your putt and your line, especially if you are putting uphill. Hole 6, and a challenging par 3 as the tee box is raised from the green. You will need to play roughly 5 yards short to allow for the elevation change. I would recommend playing the yardage to the middle of the green, as you will want to get clear of the 2 bunkers that are protecting the front of this green. The green is wide but not particularly deep, and has a little room for error at the back as well. The best miss is going to be either right or left of this green. This green has a false front again, and is shaped like an upturned down saucer with runoff areas all the way around this green. Once you are at the green though, pace control is going to be essential for getting down in par, or actually hole 7, and a shorter par 4 that doglegs to the right. Ideally off the tee, you will want to position yourself just to the yardage that you want into the green. Ideally you will need to get past the fairway bunker on the right hand side, and this will give yourself a good chance of getting into the green. Ideally aiming to the left hand side, you will need to play at least 180 yards to make it past this fairway bunker. If you do fancy taking on the trees that are down the right hand side, you're going to need at least 250 to 260 yards just to make it past and give yourself a good opportunity to find the fairway. For the approach to the green, again just aiming for the middle, playing the yardage to the middle will leave you the most room for error around this green. Another green turned like an upturned down saucer, and quite significant slopes all the way around the outside of this here. There is a bank to the back of the green, so it will help you out if you do go a little bit long on this green. Do expect quite a bit of movement around this green again, Hole 8, and a par 5 that plays almost identical to the par 5 on hole 3. You have the same 6 fairway bunkers that are separating the fairways, so for most golfers you will just want to lay up short of these bunkers. For the longer hitters you probably can make it past, but it is going to be a good shot at about 260 to 270 yards. If you are aiming to play this in 3, your second shot will just need to leave you with your favourite yardage into the green. You will likely have about 280 yards into this green, so you can break this down pretty easily. You will need to be mindful of the trees that are down the left hand side of this hole, as getting into those will likely result in a lost ball. For your approach to the green though, you're going to need to avoid the bunkers that are sitting at the front of this green. The left hand side bunker is considerably worse than the one that is at the right hand side. So play the yardage to the middle of the green, if not the back of the green, to try and avoid all of the bunkers. This is not a huge green to work with, but long and right is the miss if you are going to miss anywhere around this green. Once at the green though, this green is pretty flat for most of the way around it, so don't expect too much movement around this green from pretty much all angles. Hole 9, and a good length par 4 to finish off the front 9. Off the tee you're going to want to try and get down the fairway as far as possible. I would aim a little down the left hand side, as this hole does take a slight turn towards the left as you get towards the top of the hill. Off the tee though, you do actually have a bit more space down the right hand side for anything that is mishit. For your approach shot to the green plays slightly downhill from the fairway, so you will need to take this into account. The best miss of this green is either short or left. There are 2 bunkers at the right hand side of the green, so I would recommend just aiming a little bit towards the left hand side and just playing the yardage to the middle of the green. This is another green that has runoff areas around the entire way around this green, and probably does slope a little bit down towards the front if anything. So do expect some movements, especially if you are on the outer edges of the green, and again you will have to commit to your putt to get down into. Hole 10, and a good length par 5, and certainly not one that you're going to be able to reach into. Off the tee though, you're best just to lay up short of the 2 fairway bunkers. These bunkers come at roughly 240 yards. You will need to be mindful though, as the fairway does slope from left to right. Your second shot will just need to lay up to a comfortable yardage to go and attack the green. There is 1 bunker down the left hand side at about 80 yards short of the middle of the green. So lay up short of this bunker, and this should give you a good shot into the green. And leaving yourself somewhere in the region of 100 to 120 yards to the green will allow you to find the widest part if you include the rough as well. This green has 3 bunkers, 1 short left and right, and 1 long left as well. This green is pretty flat, pretty much all the way around it. However, there is a bank to the left hand side, and that will help feed the ball back towards the green. Anything missed right and you will go down the other bank, and this will only leave you with a really tough up and down. So I recommend just playing the yardage to the middle and aiming for the middle of the green as well, as missing this green will leave you with a tough up and down. Hole 3, and a very challenging par 3 actually, and there is quite a bit of danger around this green. There's 4 bunkers, 2 either side, and at the back of you is out of bounds, and there's also a stream that cuts across the front of the green. This is actually quite a generous sized green, and identifying where the pin is may lead you to change clubs on this hole. I would recommend playing the yardage just to the middle of the green and aiming to the middle as well. The green has a bit of a spine running across the middle of it, and with both ends of the green having a downhill slope down towards the either front or back of it. Due to the length of this green though, this is 3-putt territory, so pace control here is essential for trying to get down in par. Challenging par 4, which doglegs to the left. Off the tee you'll be playing completely across water to find the fairway. You will also need to be mindful of the outer bounds that is down the right hand side of this hole, and also there is a water hazard a little bit further on down the left hand side. However, this will need to be a really big miss left for you to hit that water. So for most golfers, I would recommend playing roughly 200 yards off the tee and trying to find yourself just short of the turn. If you have got a 250 yard shot, then again you can take on the corner and try and get yourself past that water if possible. This is stroke index 3, so most golfers will at least have 1 shot here, and I would use that to your advantage on this hole. For your approach shot to the green though, I would just recommend playing the yardage to the middle of the green and aiming for the middle of the green as well. You will want to take into account that there is, as I mentioned, the water down the left hand side, and it is out of bounds all the way down the right hand side as well. So this will need to be an accurate shot into the green. The green has just the one bunker down the left hand side and does generally slope down towards the front of this green. Probably won't expect too much movement around this green though, so again just commit to your putts to give yourself the best chance of getting down for par here. Hole 13, and a really challenging par 4, and no surprise as to why this is stroking next one. This fairway snakes all the way down towards the green. Off the tee though, you're going to want to try and get down to the end of the fairway as possible. This will come at roughly 270 yards, however to get past the water that you just played alongside, you will need to cover at least 220 yards. Ideally off the tee though, you're going to want to play somewhere around 220 yards to 250 yards. This will help you find the widest part of the fairway and also the rough as well. There is a gap between two water hazards, and this will leave you about 100 to 130 yards into the green. For your approach shot, again you're going to need to be mindful of that water down the left hand side, so I would aim a little bit towards the right hand side and just try and aim over the bunker that you'll see in front of you. There's also a bunker long and left, making this a really tough green to hit. Short or long of this hole will be the best miss, but I would recommend just playing a yardage to the back of the green if you are in doubt. The green is like an upturned down saucer with runoff areas, especially towards the outer edges of this green. You won't see too much movement around this green though, so just aim pretty much straight at the hole. Hole 14, and a short par 4 here that plays pretty similar to the previous hole. This is a bit shorter, but it is uphill the whole way up to the green, so it will play a little bit longer than what is on the card. Off the tee though, you're going to want to try and get to the end of the fairway, which comes at roughly 240 yards off the tee. There is quite a bit of forgiveness around this fairway, as the rough is pretty generous either side of this fairway, but is a little bit more favourable down the right hand side. For your approach to the green though, you will need to factor in the elevation change and the bunkers that are protecting the right and the left hand side of this green. I would recommend just playing the yardage to the back of the green, or taking half a club more than you would need normally. There really isn't a miss to this green, but short will be the best if anything. This is quite a narrow but a long green, so an accurate shot up to this green will be important for getting down into. The green is pretty flat, however there is a bit of a gentle slope down towards the front of the green. This will be a tough green if you are having to make long putts pretty much the entire length. Though pace control is going to be essential for minimising the amount of putts you take. Hole 15, and another hole that does appear shorter on the card than it plays. Again, another hole that does play all the way uphill towards the green. Off the tee, you're going to want to lay up short of the fairway bunkers that are sitting at about 230 yards. There is a bunch of trees down the left hand side, and you will need to play to the right of those to get yourself the best possible chance at getting onto the green for 3. For most golfers, you will need to lay up to a comfortable yardage to go and approach that green. Again, be mindful of the next shot that is uphill, and if you are capable of hitting an accurate shot over 240 yards, then you may entertain going for the green in 2. But this will be a really high risk shot. There's 2 bunkers that are sat left and right of the entrance to this green. There's also a bit of room for error towards the back, so if anything, play the yardage to the back of the green, and this will give you the most room for error. The green is pretty flat from most angles and does have a slight slope down towards the front of the green, but don't expect too much movement from most of the way around this green. Hole 16, and now you've made it to the top of the hill, a great place to admire the views. Off the tee though, you are playing to a fairway that is quite considerably below the tee box, and this will be at least 1 club difference towards the end of the fairway. So off the tee, you're going to want to play a club that plays no more than about 240 to 250 yards, as the fairway will run out at 270 yards. I would recommend playing a club that plays around 220 yards, as this will be the widest part of the fairway. You'll also find the widest part of the rough if you do miss the fairway at all. For the approach to the green, you will be playing to a raised green, likely from a downhill lie. It is quite a generous sized green and just has the 1 bunker short left. There's actually a fair amount of space around this green for anything that is slightly mishit. There is also a false front to this green, so anything short will likely end up just rolling back down the hill. So play the yardage to the middle of the green, and this will give you the best possible opportunity for getting down for 2. You won't find too much movement towards the back of this green, Another green that has runoff areas around this green, so do expect a bit of movement around this green, especially if you are putting from the front edge of the green. Hole 17, and a lengthy par 4 that plays uphill from the tee shot. You will be at an advantage for getting to the green the further down the fairway you are as possible. This is a narrow fairway, but it does have generous rough either side of the fairway. Whilst you won't be able to see the green off the tee, I would just aim down the middle of the fairway, as this is actually quite a straight hole. For your approach to the green, you will need to factor in the tree that's at the front right of this green, and also there is a bunker down the left as well. This is a small green to work with little room for error around this green as well. I would recommend just playing the yardage to the middle of the green and aiming slightly down the left hand side as well. The green has a few undulations, so do expect a little bit of movement if you are having to make long putts around this green. Generally speaking though, this green has a slope down from left to right as you approach the green. Hole 18, and finally a par 3 to finish off with. This is actually a really tough hole to finish off on. You will be playing entirely over water, and it is also to a raised green. I would recommend playing the yardage to the back of the green just to factor in that rise in the green. You will also want to miss the bunker that is protecting the front of this green. There is quite a bit of forgiveness towards the back of the green, so if you can, just take one extra club and if necessary try to avoid missing short of this green. This is a generous sized green that has a few undulations to it. Won't be too much movement across this green, but will be a tough read if you are having to make long putts.